My name is Elias Vance. I'm the communications officer for Subterranean Research Outpost Tartarus. At least, I was. This is log entry. I don't know. I've lost track. The date is irrelevant. The light on this recorder is the only star I can see. We are 7,000 feet below the Nevada desert, and we are not alone. If you find this, period, this isn't a distress call. It's a warning. A tombstone. It started 3 weeks ago. We were a crew of 5, the best in our fields. Handpicked for Project Chimera, our mission to drill into a newly discovered geothermal pocket, a source of energy so vast it could power the entire West Coast. We were pioneers on the cusp of changing the world. There was Marcus, our station chief, ex-military, a man whose posture was as rigid as his belief in procedure. Lena was our lead geologist, a woman who could read rock strata like a novel. David, the engineer, a cynical but brilliant mechanic who kept this whole metal coffin running. And Rebecca, our biologist and medic, the quiet soul who tended to our scrapes and our psyches in this pressurized hole. And me, Elias, I was the link to the surface, the voice in the void. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday. The drill bit, after weeks of grinding through basalt and granite, punched into something new. The pressure readings went wild. Lena was ecstatic. She called it a geobiological anomaly. The core sample we pulled up wasn't just rock. It was veined. Dark, pulsing lines woven through the stone, like a petrified circulatory system. It was ancient, older than any fossil record. Rebecca took it to the lab. The rest of us celebrated. We'd done it. Marcus opened a bottle of whiskey he'd been saving. We felt like gods, standing on the threshold of a new era. We were fools. The first sign was subtle, a flickering of the lights in Biolab B. David went to check the conduit. He was gone for 20 minutes. When he came back, he grumbled about faulty wiring, same as always. But he was tidy. David was never tidy. His corner of the mess hall was always a disaster of magazines and greasy napkins. Now it was spotless. We chalked it up to the good mood, the relief. The change was in the silence. David, who could talk your ear off about the failings of a torque wrench, became quiet, efficient. He'd perform his maintenance rounds with a new, unnerving grace. He stopped complaining. That should have been the first alarm bell. A silent David was a broken David. I noticed it first in the communications. Part of my job was monitoring the internal comms for integrity. Every human voice has a unique waveform, a fingerprint of tiny imperfections. David's was gone. His voice on the intercom was a perfect, period, sterile sine wave. It was like listening to a computer simulation of a man. I brought it to Marcus. I showed him the readouts. He dismissed it. Equipment malfunction, Elias. You're getting cabin fever. We're all a little on edge. But I couldn't shake it. I started watching David. He moved perfectly. He never fumbled a tool. He never misjudged a step. He ate his food without ever dropping a crumb. He still looked like David, talked like him, but it was a flawless performance. And that flawlessness was the most hideous flaw of all. The confirmation came 2 days later. Lena was analyzing the core sample, which had started to change. The dark veins were now coated in a thin, shimmering film. She called me and Marcus to the lab. "It's a colonial organism," she said, her voice a hushed whisper of awe and fear. "Each cell is an individual, but they work as one. They're communicating, adapting. When I introduced a catalyst, they didn't just react. They mimicked its chemical structure on a cellular level." As she said mimicked, we heard a clatter from the hallway. It was David. He dropped a full toolbox. The sound was like a gunshot in the tomb-like silence of the station. We ran out. The heavy steel box lay on the floor, but David was standing 20 feet down the corridor, staring at a pressure gauge as if nothing had happened. "David, did you hear that?" Marcus barked. David turned. His face was placid. "Procedi Pichichoy 5%. Hear what, Chief?" But from where we stood, we could see his right hand, the one he'd supposedly dropped the toolbox with. It was wrong. The fingers were too long. They were bent back at an angle that would have shattered human bone, gripping the handrail with a sickening, unnatural tension. As he noticed us looking, the hand visibly corrected itself. A soft, period, wet, point, cracking sound, period, and it was David's hand again. The blood drained from Marcus's face. He finally understood. "Seal the lab," he ordered me, his voice trembling for the first time since I'd met him. "Nobody in or out." We locked ourselves in the comms room. The three of us, me, Marcus, and Lena. Panic set in. The thing that looked like David was out there. And Rebecca... Where was Rebecca? Her shift had ended an hour ago. She was probably in her quarters. Or maybe she'd gone to the med bay. Or maybe... Lena was the one who saved us from madness. She went back to her research on the organism, her mind a fortress against the terror. "It's a mimic," she theorized, her hands flying across her datapad. "It replaces the host cell by cell. It's not just wearing a skin, it is the skin. It has the memories, the mannerisms, but it's imperfect, an echo. There has to be a way to expose it." The station-wide power cut out. We were plunged into darkness, the red emergency lights painting everything in blood. The hum of the life support was the only sound. "It's in the systems," I whispered. "David's the engineer. It knows everything." "Then it knows we're in here," Marcus said, pulling a heavy-duty flare gun from the emergency locker. "It's not a weapon, but it's bright and it's hot. It's all we've got." Lena had a breakthrough. "Silver," she said suddenly. The sample showed an extreme aversion to pure silver. "It causes a catastrophic cellular cascade. It can't maintain cohesion. It falls apart." We had a small spool of 99.9% pure silver wire in the tech lab for calibrating sensitive equipment. Our test. Our only hope. The problem was the tech lab was on the other side of the station, past the mess hall, past David. There was no other choice. We had to move. We crept out of the comms room, the red light casting long, dancing shadows that looked like grasping arms. The silence was absolute. Every creak of the metal floor was a scream. We found Rebecca in the med bay. She was just standing there in the dark, facing a cabinet. "Rebecca?" Marcus called out softly. She turned, and for a second she was just Rebecca. Her kind eyes, the worried line of her mouth. "Marcus? What's going on? The power?" "Stay back," Marcus warned, raising the flare gun. Lena held up a small pair of wire cutters and a piece of the silver wire she'd managed to grab. "Rebecca, we need to do a test. On all of us." Rebecca's face crumpled in confusion and fear. "Procedi pitch. 15%. Rate slow." "A test? What are you talking about?" "Lena, please," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "This is insane. We're turning on each other. That's what it wants." Her plea was so human, so convincing. For a second, I doubted. Maybe we were wrong. But Marcus's face was stone. "Do it, Lena." Lena reached for Rebecca's hand. And in that moment, Rebecca's face changed. The fear vanished, replaced by a look of cold, ancient intelligence. She didn't fight. She didn't scream. She simply let go. The thing that was Rebecca didn't wait for the wire. Her arm elongated, twisting like soft wax, and lashed out, not at Lena, but at the main power conduit on the wall. It wasn't trying to hurt us. It was trying to cut the life support, to make the whole station the perfect, cold, dark place for it to thrive. Marcus fired the flare. The corridor erupted in blinding, magnesium white light. In that flash, Dot, we saw it. The thing was no longer Rebecca. It was a shifting nightmare of flesh and bone, a grotesque mockery of a human form, unfolding itself from her skin. The sound it made was not a scream, but the wet, tearing sound of cellular division happening at an impossible speed. We ran. We sealed the medbay door behind us, the metal groaning as the thing threw its mass against it. We knew then that David was not the only one. We didn't know how long Rebecca had been replaced. Days, a week. Had she been the one to treat David after a minor workshop injury? Was she the original source? We made it to the central core chamber, the heart of the geothermal drill, our last resort. "We have to cause a meltdown," Lena shouted over the station's screaming alarms. "Sterilize the entire facility. Bury it in magma." But as we began the overload sequence, the main door to the chamber slid open. David stood there. His face was calm. His eyes were empty. "You can't do that," it said in David's voice. "This place is a womb, a new garden. You are just the soil." And from the shadows behind him, another form emerged, a larger one, an amalgamation of things. We only saw a part of it, but it was enough. We had found the rest of the missing night shift security guard. That's when Marcus made his choice. He shoved the overload controls into Lena's hands. "Finish it. I'll buy you time." He charged, not with the flare gun, but with a massive pipe wrench he'd grabbed. He wasn't trying to win. He was just trying to delay the inevitable. The last thing I saw was the thing that was David looking at the charging Marcus with something like pity, before its arms split open into a spray of jagged bone. We sealed the core chamber door. We heard the sounds. We finished the sequence. The countdown began. 5 minutes until the station became a man-made volcano. There was one way out, an emergency maintenance shaft, a 7,000-foot ladder to the surface. We might make it. We might not. We're climbing now. Lena is just below me. The station is groaning its death throes beneath us. We haven't spoken for an hour. The only sound is our breathing and the ringing of the ladder rungs. We escaped. But as I climb, a single awful thought has taken root in my mind. It's cold and heavy. In the chaos of the final moments, the thing was fast. So fast. Did it touch one of us? A single cell is all it needs. A microscopic cut, a drop of blood in the eye. I look down at Lena. Her face is grim, lit only by the faint glow of her headlamp. She's focused on the climb. She looks like Lena. But then, period. David looked like David. Rebecca looked like Rebecca. She looks up at me, and I see the same question reflected in her eyes. The same one I'm trying so hard to hide. Did we both make it out? Or did only one of us?